coming around the hook.
So I'm going to set the recorder on the call-in. So the recording is started on the call-in feature, and welcome everyone to the Nature of Consciousness. And I want to thank everyone for being here. And Kimberly is here with me. Hello, Kimberly.
Hello, Bill. Hello, everyone.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm fantastic. I love we love this conversation. I love Rupert. I love Bill. I love God. So all good.
Good. Thank you. And Andrea, how's the sound? How's the mic on the call-in feature? Is that good?
Yeah, the mic is fine. The Kimberly's cutting in and out though.
Okay, I noticed that too. I don't think it's any of the. I think it's just probably the Wi-Fi waves, because I heard that too. Okay, good. All right then. So we'll get started. Thank you guys for calling in. I appreciate it. And we actually don't have anyone in the visual. So if you guys are catching this later, I don't know what happened with the technology, but it is what it is. And we're just going to go with it because it is, out of our hands. We've done what we can do to try to solve it. And this is the best I know how to do. Is I do have Kimberly over there, so that's one good thing. Otherwise, we would have just me and you guys calling in. So, and it looks like a lot of people are starting to pick up their phone and come in by phone. And I want to welcome everyone to this week's chapter 10, the existence. The name of the chapter is Existence is Identical to Awareness. And this, as many of you might also agree, I don't know, I can't wait to hear what Kimberly has to say about this chapter. And also anyone that is calling in, I would love to hear your take on this chapter. But for me, this chapter is a trippy chapter. This chapter is like trippy. And it's so it's really interesting to me because I'm recording the workbook lessons of A Course in Miracles right now. And I just happened today to record workbook lesson 30 it's identical to the content in this chapter that we're getting ready to talk about. Chapter 10 is that existence is identical to awareness. And lesson 30 in the workbook of A Course in Miracles says, God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. And then it talks about it's so funny because it talks about God is in this coat. For example, God is in this magazine, God is in this chair, God is in this lamp. And I find it very interesting. As soon as I opened up this chapter of Rupert's, the third paragraph in the chapter says, all objects are said to exist. A chair exists, a thought exists, an emotion exists. As such, existence is the common element, the shared essence of all objects. And then he goes on to say that, however, existence is not a property of objects, just as the screen is not a property of a movie, nor water a property of a wave. Objects do not have existence. Existence, the isness of all seeming things, belongs to awareness alone, the only one that truly is. And when you go on and you finish reading this chapter, it's like, what is he saying here? And then, right?
Yeah. You need a nap first. You need to take a nap and just kind of soak it in, let it come in, and then you can go back to it. Yes, I know what you're saying.
Did you get that same experience from this?
Yeah. Yes, I did. I totally did.
Yeah.
I also really love this for the same reason you love it. I noticed how many things that Rupert is saying in this chapter match A Course in Miracles. So when I was preparing for this time together, I kind of went crazy and I started writing down sentences that were in Rupert's book and then finding the corresponding idea in A Course in Miracles. And I think that also helped me to really integrate or land what Rupert is saying in a context that is very familiar to me. Because I think what Rupert is saying is not complex. It's simply the formulation with which he describes things. It just was unfamiliar. It takes a while to understand what he's saying, but he's saying the exact same thing, of course, that A Course in Miracles is saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
and I don't know if I don't know at what level. I mean, I've had mystical experiences before where, and I call it mystical. I was still in this body and I was still in my conscious mind experience, but I had an experience once where, I knew, I had this knowing experience that when I was looking at a bowl and a table, at the same time, I was looking at a table and I'm going, oh my God, that table is looking at itself through these eyes. And I was actually having the experience of being seen as the table. And then I had, at the same time, there was a bowl on the table and I'm going, oh my God, that bowl is looking at itself through these eyes. It was the craziest thing I'd ever experienced, but it was I had a knowing of the experience at the same time. And I was in Portugal at the ashram with Muji, and there were two people at the table, and I was telling them about it. I'm going, oh my God, that table is looking at itself through these eyes. It was so bizarro. And then I went up and told Muji about it, and he had this great big smile, ear to ear grin on his face, as like he knew what I was talking about. And then I looked down at his feet. There was a rock down at his feet, and I said, Muji, this rock is seeing itself through these eyes, and it was just blowing my mind. So I feel there's more to the statements of this chapter, and there's more to the statement that's in those workbook lessons of A Course, and there's more to the statements that that are in the text or what you were reading, because and this is, I don't know, I do have a desire to see the world with the same vision, the same seeing experience that Jesus saw the world when he was physically here 2,000 years ago. I do desire to have that, not because it's when I get there I'll have achieved something, but I think there's more to seeing than what the physical eyes see, because that's my current experience, is that you do see things different when you have understanding of the way you can see your experience with the knowing of it. It gives you a different experience of the way you life shows up for you, right? And it also, as the consciousness that knows itself becomes more evolved, I feel that we actually will see a deeper experience. We'll see a deeper meaning, a deeper level of connectedness with everything that is, with the oneness that we share. We'll see a different level of connectedness that is available that might right now be veiled a little bit by perception, by the conditioned seeing, where I'm only seeing a fragment of the real picture of reality. You see what I mean?
Totally. So I remember Rupert talking about, so he started a conversation with a group of people by saying, conventionally, he was sitting up on a stage in a chair like he usually does, microphone, chair, Rupert. He said, conventionally, we think that the consciousness is in this body. There's a body with consciousness. That's what you think you're looking at. And he said, that's not true. This body is not where the consciousness is. The consciousness has a body, has, just like consciousness has a table, consciousness has a bowl, consciousness has a rock. And then he went on to say that our conventional means of knowing the world, perception, sensation, thought, all of those things are not themselves the knowers. And I'm going to just walk through what Rupert said, because I want to help all of us get comfortable with the what perception entails. So because what you were exactly talking about is, what is perception? What's the nature of perception? And so what Rupert said is that our experience is broken down into perceptions and sensations and thoughts. And so none of these things of themselves is doing the knowing. All of these things are known. For instance, if I rub my hands together, that sensation itself isn't doing the feeling of that sensation. This is not what's doing the feeling or the knowing of this sensation. This sensation doesn't do any knowing. This sensation can't see the room. This sensation can't feel. This sensation is known. I am knowing this. There's something knowing this sensation. Same thing with a thought. A thought arises, and the thought itself isn't what's doing the knowing. The thought, I would like a drink of water, isn't capable of doing the knowing. It's known. The thought itself is known.
Right.
And the same thing with our perceptions. So once we start to get the, and this, Jesus would call this the levels, that what we often have is confusion of levels, where we're walking around believing that our experience is what's experiencing life. And our experience is being known or experienced, but our experience isn't doing the experiencing. And I think that's, and if I hope that's helpful. But I think that is the little road that leads to existence is identical to awareness. because what Rupert's trying to use these awkward things called words, because words are used and created to describe duality. It's artistic how Rupert uses language, because the language itself is intended to describe limitation. So we have to realize that that's part of what we're dealing with when we look at a chapter like this and we're like, wow, like you said, Bill, it can feel trippy. And part of the reason it feels trippy is that we're describing the undescribable, truly undescribable.
Yep.
So Rupert is pointing us toward the experience of existence is identical to awareness. I think Rupert is more interested in our having the experience of it than having the understanding, like the logical understanding of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And
yeah, you talk. I have so many notes about this. This is a really cool chapter.
Well, what really blew my mind was even on the second page where awareness doesn't exist either. when he says, because it doesn't, awareness can't exist, because then it would be an object instead of the isness that it is. So he really brings us to the clarity, the finer or the finest understanding of the nature of awareness or the nature of presence. And I feel also that when Rupert uses the word awareness or the term awareness, he's also talking about God. He's totally talking about God, just the same as the Course would be talking about God, or someone else would be talking about God is, as that's the same as awareness is. And of course there are a lot of similar attributes to the experience or the knowing of it or the describing of what this awareness is, but he really kind of filters it down to where there's no place for something to be added to or taken away from the idea that awareness represents.
Yes. Yeah, I actually underlined that same sentence. Existence belongs to pure awareness alone. In fact, even awareness does not exist. It does not stand out from itself. And in the paragraph before that, Rupert talked about the origin of the word exist. It's from the Latin existere, which means to stand out. And I know that in the Course in Miracles, the Course in Miracles always talks about there is nothing but God, and anything that seems to be something other than God is an illusion. And essentially, it's the same thing, that nothing stands out from God. There's only this one element, this one experience ever going on. And a little further in, Rupert quotes from the Bhagavad Gita. Let's see what.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That's in paragraph 25, which is on page 102, right before the 3 asterisks in the center. The last sentence from the Bhagavad Gita: that which is never, that which is never ceases to be, that which is not never comes into existence. And that is so similar to an introduction to A Course in Miracles, which states that, I usually have this, I know this by heart, but I'll just read it. Nothing real can be threatened, which is that which is never ceases to be, and nothing unreal exists. That which is not never comes into existence. And then A Course in Miracles summarizes that as, herein lies the peace of God. And essentially, if we could stand out from awareness, which is this idea that we are bodies, if we actually could do that, that would mean that there would be no peace available if we could actually separate ourselves from what we truly are. And yeah, so
Well, that's where we find ourselves before we understand truth. That's where we actually do find ourselves, is living in a world where there is no peace, or there's totally it, and it's crazy, it's insanity. It causes people to get to want to escape with drugs, alcohol, any kind of addiction, or even just to suicide, just to get out, to to find a place of peace. So I think it is all in search of, it's in search of our true identity in its underlying energy, or the 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 idea that you need to escape, or how do I find it? How do I get or locate the peace of God? And that's what all of us are looking for. We're looking for our reconnect back to the identity of what we really are.
And one of the things I also really love about this chapter is some of the rhetorical questions that Rupert asks. So, to what you're saying right now, on page 99, right before the 3 asterisks on that page, Rupert is saying, he's asking, how would it be to live all aspects of one's life in a way that is consistent with this understanding? This understanding is that that you and the universe are the same, that there's an infinite, indivisible awareness, and that's us. And so he's asking, and I think it's a marvelous use of our time on our own, to spend some quiet time in the answer to the question, how would it be if we actually lived in a way that's consistent with the understanding that what we think we see with the body's eyes is actually awareness itself taking on a finite quality so that it can experience the world? What would that mean? And that took me to miracle principle number 42 in A Course in Miracles, and it talks about the golden rule, right? The golden rule is that what I do to you, I do to me. What I do to me, I do to you.
Yes.
That is the first, steps on the walk to how would I live the implications of there's no separation. Just living from the knowing that whatever I'm doing to you, and Rupert talks about how would we treat animals, people, and the earth. If we understand and feel that every animal, person, and object is our very own self, we can't go wrong. That is the experience of love, and it's the only moral guidance that we need. And indeed, every major religion or wisdom tradition has some version of the golden rule, because the golden rule is what's underneath our experience. Everything is one thing, and
Yes.
if we just lived the implications of that, as Rupert said, we wouldn't need any other rules. Just love everything, because there's nothing else. There is nothing else. It's just the one thing. And I'm just going to talk about one other thing that was sort of a works between Rupert and A Course in Miracles. And Rupert, in paragraph number 14, so that's on page, that is on page 100, the second paragraph from the top. Rupert's talking about the question why, so why is there a world? What is this all about? And he says that the why question is asked by the mind that believes that its dualistic way of perceiving reality is accurate. And to ask, why is there a world, is like asking, why is the earth flat? And then he says, only because we believe it to be so. And in A Course in Miracles, it talks about asking questions as double questions. So asking questions that you already have the answer to, because you have already decided what the world is. And one of the examples in A Course in Miracles is which of the choices that the world can give us is the one that's going to bring us peace. So that's A Course in Miracles version of a question that can never take us beyond the question. If I'm always looking in the world for what's going to bring me peace, I'm never going to find it. If I'm always asking why, why is there a world? I'm assuming in the question that there is such a thing as a world. And I will never be able to have the experience that Rupert is pointing us to, or I won't be able to have the experience that A Course in Miracles is pointing us to, because I've created everything from the idea that there is a world, and that peace can be found in it.
Yeah. I remember sitting with Ken Wapnick once, and when he was talking about like, how did the world happen? How did the tiny mad idea ever? How did this happen? How did we screw it up so bad? How did how did what's perfect become imperfect? Or how did God bring itself into a separate dualistic experience when its wholeness is inviolate, when it actually can't happen? How did something that can happen? And Ken said that a question like that is a statement masquerading as a question. It's saying, I know that I'm real because I see myself in the mirror. How the hell did this happen? So it's asking for the answer from within the dream. And the only answer that can ever come of it is the dream figure trying to figure out more information, trying to discover more information from within the dream that it's being dreamt in. It's crazy, but it's what we all. When I first found the course and when I first found these spiritual ideas, and I first heard the idea that God doesn't even know about this place. God doesn't even, you know what I mean?
I love that.
So if God doesn't even know about this place, how did it happen? And so you can only be in as the dream figure to be asking those kinds of questions. You really and I really feel that is why we have to go through a process of stepping back, looking at it as the observer, and then I love these practices of the recognition that yes, I am real, but it's not Bill. It's not Bill that's real. It's not the world that's real. It's consciousness that is actually the only thing that's real, and everything else is illusory. And before we keep going, I'm just going to say to the callers, it looks like Jenny made it. Hi, Jenny. I'm glad you found your way in this experience. We, as a caller, and I don't know what happened on our video connection today. It didn't let me in the room, so I opened up another video room so that for you guys that are listening, Kimberly is looking at me on screen just like we normally do on Wednesdays for the call. I opened up another room another element that would allow us to do this. And what I will do is I'll send a YouTube video out to everyone so they can watch the after the replay of this in video form, if you guys like. And then also for you guys that are calling in, if you press *2, you can raise your hand and we can bring your comments or your questions into this arena, and we can play with you in the sandbox a little bit on these juicy, awesome questions and this content that Rupert has really illuminated in such a brilliant and amazing way. And some of you may have missed in the beginning when I first opened up the talk that I find the content of this chapter 10 to just be trippy, just really like, wait a minute. I needed to read it a second time and put it down, walk away from it, just like you said, Kimberly, read it and take a nap and come back and digest it a little more, because it's so deep. And you don't want the thinking mind to really run with it. You really want the presence of awareness to inform you of the content in the knowing of it.
So one of the things that I'm so intrigued by the question again about how we would live all aspects of our lives consistent with this understanding. And A Course in Miracles says, as ye perceive, so will ye behave. And that's, Bill, it's exactly what you're saying. It's how I know myself. That is what I'm seeing. I'm never seeing a world. I'm only seeing how I believe myself to be. It's always like you said, it's not actually a question. It's always a statement in the form of a question, that I seem to think there's a world, and why is that, and where is God, and how could this be? But it's only because I'm perceiving as if I am a person, a separate one of the characters in the movie, and I have forgotten that I'm actually part of the screen, as to use Rupert's metaphor. So it's only when I mix myself up with the this Kimberly thing, that I lose my ability, or it's obscured, this relationship, this intimacy with everything. I seem to not be able to access it as long as I'm Kimberly-ing. As awareness, that is my experience when I am abiding in awareness. There's just an inherent delight to it. Nothing's happening, but it's so delightful. It's like you know how you can't tickle yourself, even no matter what you do, even if you can't tickle yourself. Well, awareness is delightful in a way I could never delight myself. There's no amount of delight I can experience outside of awareness that matches the delight of simply being that I am presence. And Rupert quotes, he loves William Blake, the poet.
Yeah.
And he says one of the sentences from William Blake's poem, it's on page 99, the bottom paragraph. Every bird that cuts the airy way is an immense world of delight, closed by your five senses. And then Rupert says, awareness itself is an immense world of delight. It is peace and joy itself. It is awareness itself that assumes the activities of the five sense perceptions, thereby enclosing its own joyous immensity in form and appearing to itself as the world. The world is a materialization of that joy. And Bill, that feels like a description of your experience of consciousness seeing itself as a table, consciousness seeing itself as a bowl. That's another way of saying this exact thing that Rupert is saying. And to me, this chapter marks, everybody's probably had this experience where you go up to a high diving board, and even walking up to the high diving board, you can feel, that's an exciting, exhilarating, challenging thing to do. And as you walk toward the end of the diving board, you can see, wow, this is really high up. This is pretty far out. Wow. And I feel like Rupert has been taking us up the ladder and walking us out toward the edge of the diving board, because there comes a place where the only way to know what Rupert is talking about is to know it. It's not to think it. It's not even to understand it. It's to know it. It's to have the direct experience. And so I love that, on some level, I'm stumped. I can't wrap my dualistic mind around this, because it's incapable of this knowing. I have to jump off. I don't dive off. You guys can dive off head first. I'm just going to jump. Same thing. I jump off the diving board, and the one that is on the diving board, I left her there, and the one that's jumping is the one that can get this. Not Kimberly, who's standing at the edge of the diving board freaking out. I have to be willing to let that formulation of reality go. And that is the only way I can access the fact that awareness, what does he say? Awareness doesn't exist either. Because, you could sit with this for decades thinking, awareness exists and I can see that and then that cool. But no, Rupert is like saying, now step off the board. Awareness doesn't exist. Don't try to wrap your hands and your arms and your thoughts. Don't try to grab it, because we can't. There's no grabbing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we have an echo. Do you have an echo?
I do not have an echo.
Okay, it's just momentarily. The thing that, I mean, you can't wrap your mind around this, and that's why it's so. It's almost like you're reading something that is so foreign, so strange, that it takes a
No, you
couple.
crack me up.
Huh?
You crack me up. I love you so much. Oh, it's true.
It takes a couple of times to read it before you are able to actually digest what it is that it just said. And then after you digest it a little bit, somehow it goes into a filter system and you're able to go, oh, that's what that means. And then it seems like that opening then opens you up to have the experience. And that's what awareness has done for me with relating to A Course in Miracles. Awareness has given me the experience that the Course actually points to. And it's given me the understanding of the content of the Course that I wasn't getting before I really understood that I am awareness, that awareness is the experience of the being, or the awareness is the experience of I am as God created me. The only way you can have that, the only way that can sit so that you actually have the experience, is if you have the direct experience of awareness for yourself. Otherwise, all of those workbook lessons are concepts. Otherwise, all of those ideas, the one that you just stated a few moments ago, that nothing real can be threatened. Well, that's awareness.
That's right. That's right.
Nothing unreal exists. That's
everything else.
Everything else. That's all the perishable. That's all the things that would come and go. It's like the clouds and the sky is awareness, where there's nothing. All these things happen, and the sky is really endless. When does the sky end?
Right.
Where does the sky end?
Right.
And where did it start? And where does awareness end, and where did it start? It's the same.
Yes. And
we have a couple of hands up.
Great.
When you're ready, if you have a comment, but we have a couple of hands up. I want to honor that. We have, looks like we have Andrea, his hand up, and we also have someone from the Twin Cities. Maybe that's Minnesota. I'm not sure. You want to take the hands?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to unclick we have, where did the Twin Cities go? Oh, they clicked off. I hope I didn't click you off. I'm sorry if I did. It looks like, oh, there you are. So I'm going to unclick your mic, Twin Cities. The mic is all yours. Are you there? Where did you go? Andrea, do you still have your hand up, or is your hand down?
My hand can be up or down.
Okay, so
I don't have a hand to put up or a hand to put down.
Oh, good. Well, I lost Twin Cities, and you were up right below Twin Cities. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, one of the things is I'm listening today, which is I really appreciate the conversation today.
Pardon me?
And that is, I said I really appreciate this conversation today.
Good.
This is one that I have with myself all the time.
Well, now it's coming to you in the form of Bill and Kimberly.
Yeah, my sense is that it's not even my sense, my experience is that you cannot come to being your being going through the mind, because the mind in itself is, as Rupert says, is finite, limited. So if you want to know what is the all, you can't ask limited, which is limited in its knowing or its knowledge, the answer to that. It doesn't know. It's limited in what it's learned from the experience of being in the world, and then accepts that as that's what I am, that's what everything is. My experience is that I am is the teacher, is the one that brings us all of the knowing, and is that voice, not the voice in my head, but the voice in my heart, is the voice of love. If you want to just use the experience of duality and form as a symbol, because I just see them as symbols to help us understand something that to the mind is completely incomprehensible. So to go to the mind for the answer, you'll never have the answer. But to move past the mind, in which we would talk about as self-inquiry, is to settle, not needing to know the answer, because just to ask a question, the mind is the finite mind is the only thing that asks questions, because we are the all-knowing. And when you know, there's no need to ask, there's no need to think. Those are all activities of a modulation of consciousness in a limited form.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's to ask a question, because in my humanness, in my identification with that, most of my life, that's where the questions appeared to be coming from. And then one day a voice just started speaking to me. And I started pondering what it was asking me. And then all of a sudden I went, wait a minute, who's asking that question? I'm not asking that question. I'm not even thinking about that. So I watched myself shift from having the conversation, which was completely natural with myself, my all-knowing self, but it asked me a question to help me link myself back to myself, because I had left myself. Does that make sense?
Yes, completely.
And so it was this beautiful experience. And I still have that experience all the time, because that's the voice when I find myself in any place where I'm identified with the mind, who gets confused, gets frustrated, gets fearful. I always, when any of that ever comes up, I acknowledge the thought and the feelings and say, yes, I can feel that. Yes, I have that sensation. Yes, I'm aware of that thought. But if it's something that doesn't have anything to do with love, which it usually is, I just say, well, I hear that, or I understand that you may be afraid. Just speaking to the self that, as Kimberly so elegantly put, is jumping off a diving board. And I feel that to really, really, truly come into being, you have to let go of all identification. It's the prerequisite. You can't live in both, you can't have a foot in both worlds. So you can come to the place, as I see with Rupert, as I see with a number of us who are, some people have their toe in the water, some people are standing, in a mountain looking down at the ocean, other people are swimming in it. I mean, there's all different places where people exist in this process. And it's just the process of letting go of the idea of ourselves and just being ourselves. But I found something that's in the Vedantic teachings, which Rupert is certainly a student of, and it was about being. It says, whatever you think about is not the reality. Whoever we think about once we have formed an image or identity is not the real person or conscious subject. The real being, which is one in all, cannot be reduced to a pattern of thought or emotion, but can only be communed with in receptivity and silence. Being is ever responsive to us, but closed as we are in our thought process, we cannot know it. Being is openness and complete benevolence that overflows from the timeless into creation. It says, to know we must first be. Only being can know being. We are that by what we are, not by what we seek or what we desire. We become that by our no longer striving to become something else. This is offering the mind into the flame of awareness and delivers us beyond time and sorrow. And that to me is so much of what this conversation is today. Delivers it to the flame.
Yes, I love that. I love that metaphor. Deliver us into the flame of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
That's
this
like
offering, yeah, so
that's
this
the
is
altar of
offering
truth.
the mind
Yeah.
into the flame
Yeah.
of awareness. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Andrea, for sharing that with us. I have one.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
This is
Thank you,
beautiful.
Andrea.
Yeah. Twin
Take
Cities
care.
hand is back up.
Kimberly.
I'm going to go ahead and unmute the mic for Twin Cities and see if this works. Hello, the mic is all yours.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Oh, cool.
Good.
Hey.
Who is this?
This is Catherine Gaines.
Who is it?
And Catherine Gaines.
Oh, hi, Catherine. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. I live in Montana, but I moved from Minneapolis. I never changed my phone number, but anyway.
Do you remember Catherine, Kimberly? She's the redhead. She was in Garrison.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
a blonde.
Right? Red or blonde?
Okay. Blonde.
Blonde. Okay,
But
she's the blonde redhead.
Close. Just want to thank you both, Kimberly and Bill. It's been a great session today. And the only thing I wanted to comment on is, the difference between believing and experiencing. Because I was my tendencies were just to take this Rupert stuff in because it resonated. So I was just believing, and that doesn't work.
Right.
As he and you all have pointed out, you need to experience it. And what has helped me are those tantric yogas on that disc set have helped me tremendously. His guiding of experiencing sensation and perception. So I just wanted to add that, as a comment.
Oh, that's good. Thank you, Catherine. You're so right. And I met people at the Mercy Center when I saw Rupert the first time out in California that were longtime followers of who was that guy that was on the West Coast? No, the guy with the long beard. Everyone long beard.
I don't know.
But these guys were. I'll think of it. I'll think of who it was in a minute. I mean, he's well known, and these guys would listen to those couples. I met several couples that would listen to those meditations every morning before they would do anything. It was their their quiet time was listening to those meditations and opening up to Rupert's teachings from the meditations. I actually feel that I need to get back into that myself. I have both sets here in my office, and I think they're invaluable. And really, the experience that's available in his meditations are beyond the world. They're beyond time, and they take you into the experience of the being of awareness.
Yeah. exactly right. It's like a gift. They're just unbelievable. So the second set, I've only listened to 8, but number 5 is mind blowing. Mind blowing. I can't, it's just unbelievable. So again, to have that guidance into experience is just, I can't say enough about it. So
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine.
yeah.
Thank you so much,
Sure.
Catherine.
Yeah. And we have one more hand up, and looks like John Myers. Thank you for calling in, and the mic is all yours, John.
Oh, well, it's under John's name, but this is Elizabeth Myers.
Hi, Elizabeth. Welcome.
Hi. I am just so grateful, first of all, for this group that you've called together, because it's definitely a blessing, a wonderful blessing. And in listening to this right now, 2 very brief ways to describe. When I was maybe about 10 or 12 years old, I had an actual experience with the dazzling white light that came to me one night around 2 in the morning. I was totally awake, formed, brought in some blue. I could go into more, but what happened as it approached me, I was just one with it. And it was like it was coming to help me understand some things. And it was a total transmission. There was no words. I knew everything, even then. And I was very calm, and it was familiar. And it was then becoming even bigger and bigger as it approached me in my bed in my room. And at the moment, I could feel myself just like it was like the best friend coming back ever. And it was enveloping me with emanations that were not of this world, just such a total peace and love. I wouldn't even called it then. And in that moment, a switch went on me, and I went into total fear. And I turned over. I was like 10 years old, had been raised a Catholic, and I was praying it to go away. And then my life mission became to pray it to come back. And somewhere I've been a student of Course in Miracles, as well as many of the other ones you've mentioned in many of your sharings. And I started to realize that fear, was fear of our own divine self.
Yeah.
And then in 1979, I had a oneness experience that was nothing I was trying to consciously, I wasn't even that yet aware. But I went into a place, I was on a beach, and I didn't even know about really peace then, what peace meant. But somehow internally I said nothing was going to disturb my peace. And somehow I was guided to merge in with the scene. I mean, I would put it in words now that way. And I went into a deep void. And all I can tell you is I wasn't lost. And as I felt it was coming at that time to a close, I could feel like I want to call it like a descent. And I literally, like now I would call it a perceptual field, was I was totally at one in the sky with the pelicans, with the water. There was no separation. And I was just in this place of, it was just like, it was really nice. And then I was aware, then I became aware that I was aware that I was in it. And it was me and all of it merged. And then there was this moment where I want to say it almost went like blank. I did hear an internal deep voice that gave me a specific message that day that helped me shift even more of my perception. And I knew there was more, but I got so, in a way, startled by it. I could feel myself, in a sense, wake up out of it. And when I say wake up, it's like I could feel myself as if I was being dropped back down to the beach, and I had been laying down, and I rose up into a seated position, and I opened my eyes, and I was like, what? And the joy, it was like, it was beyond this world. And what the thought came to me, it'll burst this container. And at that time, I mean, now I would say it, meaning the body or the mind that was having it. And it felt like it sort of left very quietly, and I had tears of joy beyond this world. And then my next thought was, why did you leave me here? And for a second, I was seeing everything perfect. I mean, physical eyes, and all my life it's been nearsightedness. And let's just say, as that part was like receding, then the eyesight returned back to the nearsightedness. Mm. And then that further propelled my, which keeps me going, because it was definitely not of this world. And that's a real quiet nutshell. So when I have approached more through the course and all kinds of, Eckhart Tolle, or now with Rupert, I feel that, that stillness and is so vital to getting in touch with that and not fearing it, because there's a place where when I'm, like when you some of these meditations, that's so vital to it, because as I just quieted, it happened of itself. Yeah. And the more I felt I wanted it to engulf me, then the fear was, oh my gosh, I'll disappear. Hence now I would say, there's the ego. I want it, it's me. And there was no thought about it. And yet the fear was, oh, there I go. Mm-hmm. I disappear. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so in these practices, especially what you're sharing through the background of the Course and other things, and especially with Rupert, finding, and I find it so great to come together, to find literally the joy, but also the strength in not running away, giving into, it's allowing the fear and realizing what's it there for. Because that little self really doesn't want to disappear. And yet, at least I'm feeling more and more ready for that, to sustain, because where I was and where I was at, it was like, I still remember that feeling in my, like, why did you leave me here? Mm-hmm. What happened? It's a totally different experience. So yes. When you're sharing this and, practicing the experience, I just want to express that there's, even in the sharing of it, as, having the discussion, it feels like within me there's like safety here. There's an understanding. So the appreciation, and it's not so much a question, but any comments of how you deal with that, and even as we discuss or practice the meditations and bringing more of that when we come together, to kind of navigate, through these, sometimes exhilarating and oftentimes challenging moments that seem to want to get in the way. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why gathering to talk about these topics and these rich ideas of content that are really unfolding for us what the truth of our nature is, so that we have a different experience, so that we have an experience that is regulated by the presence of our identity, that's regulated by the knowing of the nature of what we are. And we're past the hour of our time together. And I want to thank you for calling in, and thank you all for being with us for this amazing book of Rupert's. I love every chapter seems to just build on the last one. And I think when I'm done, I'm going to go back and read it again, because a lot of cool stuff happens in my understanding and my absorption of these ideas, and the comments that are given, and the brilliant support that we get from Jenny online in the Facebook group. She keeps coming with these, this supports this that was said, and this supports this. Rupert said this about this other thing. And so thank you, Jenny. I know you're here listening. And next week, we're going to cover the chapter 11 is the white radiance of eternity. It was Deepak Chopra's favorite, his favorite title of this book. When he interviewed Rupert, it was one that he really commented on. And so the White Radiance of Eternity is a very exciting chapter for next week. I don't know who my guest will be at this moment. I will be in Mexico coming to you. So you guys that are on the phone feature, I won't have the phone feature next week. I'll only have video, and I will discover what the glitch was so that we don't have a glitch while we're in Mexico. But I'll be coming to you from Mexico. Lisa and I are going down there tomorrow, and we'll be with our friend Jimmy Twyman for a week. And I'll see you guys next week. Kimberly, thank you for joining me on this show. You were brilliant. I love having you as a guest always, and I look forward to the next time we share together.
Thanks everybody for everything you shared. And I'm so happy that we both share this passion for Rupert and all of it. So thank you, everybody. Peace, love, and blessings.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. I love you.
Bye.